Okay. So in the seat, on your shins, on a block or block plus, and then close the eyes. And when you close the eyes, notice if you're like shutting them really tight, right? See if you can be a little bit softer with the eyelids and let them just fall down. Release any holding of the jaw, any forming of expression on the face. And then start to breathe a little deeper than your last breath. And for right now, just go deeper. Don't worry about style or technique. And without changing your breath as it is right now, I want you to notice what part of your body moves when you breathe. And for right now, it doesn't matter what moves, just notice what moves. Is it the rib cage? Is it the abdomen? Is it a combination of the both? Is it just the front of the body? And now I'd like you to direct your breath downward into the abdomen if it's not there already. And imagine that you could breathe not just into the belly so that it swells outward, but goes sideways, left to right, and even in the back of the body as well. And as you exhale, slowly start to drag the exhale out of the nose, like it's resisting leaving. Inhale into the abdomen and the low ribs, downward and out. Expanding ribs, left to right, front to back. Then exhale, draw back to center. And for a while, it's just an imagination game, and then we'll find ways to play with it in the body. Two more breaths, really focusing on this expansion in 360 degrees, front, back, left, right. One more final breath, just to seal the deal with the imagination. Good. You can keep that length and style of breathing, but you can drop away the imagination of expansion on inhale. Then I want you to bring your awareness to your pelvis. And if you've heard this 1,000 times and you've got it, great, but repetition is mastery. So bring your awareness to your right sits bone. And from your right sits bone, draw a line through the pelvis to the left hip bone. And then from your left hip bone, draw a line through the pelvis to your right hip bone. And then from your tailbone to your pubic bone, draw a line. And imagine the point where all those lines meet. That's the center of the pelvis. And let your awareness travel up to your rib cage and pinpoint the right shoulder blade. So that little tip of your wing, right shoulder blade, draw a line to your left nipple. And then from your left shoulder blade to your right nipple, draw a line. And the place where those two lines meet, that's the center of your rib cage. Now imagine you wanted to assemble yourself so that the center of the pelvis and the center of the rib cage were on the same line. And the center of the pelvis dropped down into the block like an anchor. And the center of the rib cage lifted up towards the sky through the center of the neck, head, and out the crown of the head. So you're assembling yourself on a spit, on an axis. Spit kind of makes me think of rotisserie, and that's kind of gross about your own body. So axis is nice. And I want you to really firm this up in your imagination, right? This axis, this pole, dropping down through the crown of the head, through the center of the brain, even center of the neck, rib cage, pelvis, down into the floor. And again, it's an imagination game, but it's placing you in your imagined center, your perceived place. Take 2 more breaths here. Aligning yourself on your axis. Good. Gently blink the eyes open, bring the hands to touch in front of the chest, and start to press the hands really firmly left to right. And as you press the hands firmly left to right, start to spin the palms outward and keep the connection of the lower thumbs, and then spin the fingertips down. You're going to press the backs of the palms together, specifically right at that wrist joint. Spin the hands towards you and up and around, and start going around in circles with a little bit of pressure on the wrists. And as you go around, notice how much you want the elbows to do the work, right? My elbows are kind of jostling around. See if you can keep the elbows in the same spot. Snap, crackle, pop, and roll around the wrists. And then reverse the direction. So fingertips come out, palms spin towards each other, in towards you, and down. And then as you're doing this, notice if you're trying to like get the rest of your body involved, right? Align yourself on your spit. Good. 2 more circles this way. Good. And then release, bring the hands to the thighs and start to rock forward. Now you're going to come off your spit, your axis. Inhale, lift the heart up, right, back bend, and then exhale around the spine. You can press the hands into the thighs. Good. Inhale, lift up. If your arms are really long and you can connect palms to knees, you can go for it. Exhale around the spine. But if grabbing palms to knees really makes your ass, come off the block. I don't know why I'm saying sorry. You guys know I swear. Exhale around, then just keep the hands on the thighs. Inhale, open. Exhale, closed. So just notice how this is a really broad, gross motor movement, right? The whole body's moving. You could call it global. Take 3 more cat-cows. Good. Come in through center. Come to stand on the shins just to relieve the feet. Tap the feet out a little bit. Yeah, if you've got to hold on to something to do so, it's fine. Maybe wiggle around the ankles one way and then the other way. We're going to come to sit down to do one more thing, and then we'll get off our seat. Okay, sit back down. If that seat was excruciating, then you just fix it, right? I'm going to turn to the side just a little bit so we can see. I'm wearing a loose t-shirt, so to tuck it in. But I want you to align yourself on your spit. So this is how I sit normally. I'm kind of slumpy and my butt's tucked under. So I'm going to map my pelvis and find my center, pelvic floor facing down. And then I'm going to map my rib cage. And notice how when I map my rib cage, it's not what we do in yoga a lot, right? A lot of times in yoga, we're like back bending. I'm guilty of this. I've had classes where we literally never have rounded the spine. So I want you to map your rib cage so that you're sitting on a straight line and you're not back bending and you're not tucking your butt or sticking it out, but you're really on an axis. And this, I want you to imagine, we are now encased in stone. So your torso is encased in stone and you cannot move it. And we're going to be just moving the shoulders. So I want you to bring your right hand down and make a fist, and then bring your left hand onto the right side of your rib cage. This is gonna wanna move so much, don't let it. And you're gonna bring your right arm up as far as it'll go with an extended elbow, without letting the front right ribs pop up. Now I want you to notice my arm doesn't go very far, right? If I wanted to lift my arm up, I'd have to involve my rib cage, but right now we're trying to isolate the shoulder. So I'm going to sit on my axis and bring my arm up as far as it goes. We're gonna be doing controlled articular rotations of the shoulders. It's the same idea that we've been doing with our hips a lot. So do not push into pain, but it might be a little uncomfortable. So from here, keep your rib cage centered and almost like pasted down, and then punch up. And I want you to extend the elbow vigorously. And then from here, bring your right arm out to the right ever so slightly and pull back. And then from here, stick your thumb out like you're hitchhiking and very slowly rotate the thumb downward towards the ground. You're internally rotating the upper arm. And as you internally rotate the upper arm, you're gonna rotate it as far as it'll go, and then pull back towards the back of your room, and then very slowly bring the arm back behind you. And you're going to bring the arm behind you like you wanted to hide your right hand in your left pocket, and then pull up on the arm without using the rib cage. Good. Release a little bit so you can sort of soften. Take a little break. And then pick up the right arm like you wanted to reach it back behind you. Keep the rib cage in place. Bring the arm up as high as it'll go. And then from here, very slowly rotate your thumb. Oop, that's my chair. Rotate your thumb up towards the ceiling. Externally rotate. Externally rotate. Bring the arm up as far as it'll go overhead. Now the thumb faces back towards the back of the room. Breathe nice and smooth through the nose, and then very slowly release. Good. Right hand onto the left side of your rib cage. Now I'll face you guys. And again, you're on your spit. If you've got to like wiggle out because it felt a little, then wiggle out and then come back in line. And then make a fist with your left hand and really punch down towards the ground like you wanted to beat up your yoga mat. Good. And then very slowly bring the left arm up, extend vigorously through the elbow. So it doesn't matter where it goes, or it doesn't matter how it looks. We're just finding our range of motion in our shoulders without involving our spine. Stick your thumb out like you're hitchhiking, and then punch up towards the ceiling. And really keep the rib cage tamped down. It's going to want to do it so badly. We do it so much in yoga. The rib cage does all of our back bending for us. Okay, from here, start to very slowly rotate the upper arm down. Your thumb's going to point downward towards the ground. It's gonna come out and around. Probably gonna encounter some of my furniture again. Good. And then you're gonna come to a point where the thumb's pointing down towards the ground and you're trying to reach back behind you without rotating in the rib cage. Reach behind you, reach behind you. And I want you to be reaching behind you and up with the shoulder blade. And then imagine that you could tuck your left hand into your right back pocket. Reach that far over and across the body. Yeah, reach back behind you more, bongo. Like you wanted to hide the arm from me. Good. And then soften the arm down towards the butt just a little bit to take a break. And then start to reach the left arm rather back in space. And then try to lift the hand up as high as it'll go. Pull the shoulder back. Yes, Vanessa, good. And it'll start to widen out to the side. Start to reach up, spin the thumb up towards the ceiling. Externally rotate the upper arm bone. Start to reach up towards the ceiling. Keep the rib cage in place. Punch up towards the ceiling even more. Good. Notice how the rib cage wants to get involved. Pull it down, and then very slowly drop it down. Good. Come off your seat. Come into hands and knees. Tap out the feet if they lost connection with the brain. And then bring your hands underneath the shoulders. Start to move through cat and cow. Reconnect with the breath. And I want you to think about how the shoulders relate to your cat and cow right now as you're moving around. Don't try to change anything too much, just notice. We've gotten really used to sort of noticing something in our yoga practice to immediately change it, but can you just draw attention and not change for a moment? If you want to move in, figure eights or circles, you may do so. Reverse directions, reverse mode of transportation. I started calling this like the ooey gooey part of the yoga practice, right? The part that feels really nice. And then the stuff that feels like work, that's the practice. Okay, very slowly come into center. I'm again going to go to the side so y'all can see me. We've been doing this a little bit, but I've had some feedback from you guys that you're not quite sure what we're supposed to be doing. So we're going to come into a tabletop and you're going to walk your hands one pace farther forward than they normally are and soften the elbows. And I like toes tucked here, but if you have untucked toes, I want you to press down into the tops of the feet. And then from here with soft elbows, I want you to come into your fullest back bend. It's actually a little too far for me. And in your fullest back bend, I want you to notice what happens with the chin if you're lifting it up super far to complete the back bend. Drop your gaze down, glide the chin back, and notice what happens with the paraspinals, right? The musculature that runs all the way down the spine. And as you bend the elbows, I want you to pull the shoulders back in space and imagine that the back of the head and the tailbone are trying to go to the same place. And now from here, keep everything as it is, just the pelvis initiates movement. So start to tuck the tail. And as you tuck the tail, it's like the tailbone has a weight on it, it's pulling it down. And then I like to imagine like fingers walking up my spine, and that's how I round. Everything on the upper spine stays still until the fingers walk up, 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 up. At last you round, but keep the elbows soft now. So you're still pushing away from the floor, but the elbows are staying soft. So we're not using the arms to round the spine. We're rounding the spine because we're rounding the spine. And imagine now that the nose and the pubic bone wanted to go to the same place. Now from here, keep everything as it is, lift the tailbone, segmenting out the pelvis. And again, fingers crawl up the spine. I want you to resist the back bend. Elbows stay soft, soft, almost like you're unfurling the spine, soft. Collarbones broaden, shoulders pull back, chin glides back, complete the back bend, elbows soft, but you're still pushing away from the floor. Last time, tuck the tail. Very slowly segment out the spine. Elbows stay soft. As the upper back broadens, the head drops last. Good, guys. And it's a micro bend of the elbows, even though you're pushing away from the floor. Yeah. See if you can push up the middle of your shoulder blades higher towards the ceiling, Debbie. Yeah, there we go. Good. And then release. Shake it out. Find your tabletop, tuck the toes, lift up and back, downward facing dog. In down dog, you can walk the feet out, you can pedal the feet, shift side to side. Find as much surface area as you can on the hands. I want you to imagine your palm like a square and press into the square of your palm. So from your index knuckle point to the outer edge, and from the thumb knuckle point or the thumb mound to the pinky side edge. Just like you mapped the pelvis, you map the hands, you press down. Good. From here, slowly shift forward to plank pose. I want you to push into the floor like you're trying to, I can't stop using this reference, like you're trying to lift a heavy necklace. And then soften the elbows just a touch. And then from here, bend the knees, lift up and back, downward facing dog. And from here, shift forward, plank pose, take an inhale. And exhale back to down dog. And as you inhale, come forward, pull on the fingertips to bring yourself forward into plank. And as you exhale, push into the fingertips to move you back to down dog. And I want you to imagine that the fingertips initiate the movement, not a waving of the spine. 3 more times. Inhale pulls you forward with your fingertips into plank pose. Good. Exhale, fingertips push you back to down dog. Good. Twice more. Good. Good. When you come back to down dog, bend the knees, slowly walk the hands back towards the feet, come into a deep knee bend in your forward fold. Head hangs and drops. You can measure a 2 fist width distance apart between the feet if you'd like. And bend the knees a little deeper, drop the seat down, and then start to press into the feet and start to round yourself up. And as you round yourself up, the knees stay bent until the heart comes over the pelvis. Right, that measurement of your 2 centers, come to a line. Once you're on your axis, get really strong in the legs. Even squeeze your butt, pull the navel in. Good. And then from here, I want you to lift your arms without moving your rib cage. So for me today, my arms lifting without my rib cage is here. And from here, make fists. And then punch upward, whatever upward means, and keep your rib cage and your pelvis in line. Notice the tendency here to want to use the rib cage to punch up or use the pelvis to punch up, right? This is a lot of what we do in yoga. See if you can realign, get more mobility in the shoulders. Take one more inhale here. It should feel like work in the shoulders. And then exhale, drop the arms, bend the knees, and down. So slinky your spine down. As you slinky down, the knees stay soft and bent. When you come all the way down, come into your fullest fold, and then roll yourself back up. Breath is nice and steady through the nose. Good. When your heart and pelvis are on the axis, the arms reach up. Inhale, don't move the rib cage. Takes a lot of focus. Make a fist, punch up. Imagine the low ribs to the hip points are magnetized. And then release, bend the knees, slinky slump all the way down. Good. Last time rolling up. Push into the feet, use the legs, round the spine, knees stay bent. When heart and pelvis align on the axis, then the arms reach up. You don't have to make fists anymore, especially if you feel like you've got it. Keep the rib cage on the axis, lift your arms as high as you can go. You might have found more space. And then punch up or reach up higher. And I want you to reach as high as you can go. I want you to like forget every cue you've ever heard from a yoga teacher about keeping your shoulders away from your ears. It's ridiculous. When you reach up, you don't draw your scapula down. Right? If you're going to reach something up super high, your shoulders are going to come up. Good. Take one more inhale here. Reach as high as you can go. Get a little more energy in the shoulders. Keep the rib cage in line. And then exhale, release the arms, bend the knees, slinky slump all the way down. And once you slinky slump all the way down, you're going to bend the knees, walk the hands forward. In plank pose, you're going to come forward. Find the axis again, right? Pelvis and rib cage in a line. And I want you to push the earth away. And notice if you're overly gripping the abs. I want you to get a little softer in the abs, push the earth away, and stay on your axis. And then slowly land the knees down, sink back, child's pose. In child's pose, take 3 really productive breaths. And now I want you to imagine that the breath just moves into the back of your rib cage. So if you were to see yourself from the side, it's the back of the rib cage that inflates. And again, this is an imagination game. Good. Come up and forward into tabletop. In your tabletop, you're going to walk your knees underneath your hips. If your wrists are bothering you, you can walk them farther forward, but if they're fine underneath the shoulders, they'll stay there. And then align yourself on your axis. So map the pelvis, map the rib cage, and then ever so slightly tuck the tail under just a bit more. Now we've done this a couple times, but I think we didn't do it last week, so we're going to do it this week. You're going to squeeze your right heel in towards your right glute. And I want you to envision that your torso, again, is encased in stone. It cannot move. Draw the right knee into the chest. Again, you're not moving the spine or the torso. You're not rounding. You're not trying to kiss the knee. And then slowly bring the right knee up towards the right armpit. And then bring the right knee out to the side like you're a dog peeing in a fire hydrant without shifting off your axis. So there's going to be a tendency to shift to the left. I want you to bring yourself into center and watch the left elbow. It's going to want to bend. So you're going to stay super solid. Good. You should feel it in your right hip. Good. From here, drop the right knee down just a bit to lift the outer edge of the right ankle up. And imagine that the sole of the foot could reach towards the ceiling. We're internally rotating the right thigh. Good. Watch your right arm, Vanessa. Keep them both pushing. Yeah. Good. Now imagine you have a tray on your right heel. You're going to very slowly bring the tray back towards the back of your mat. Notice what's happening to the lumbar spine. Tuck the pelvis ever so slightly. Stay on your axis. And you're going to try to lift the tray up higher without losing the tuck of the tail, without coming off your midline. And if you're feeling it in your booty, that means you're doing it. Hip extension comes from the butt. Tuck the tail, lift the tray higher. Stay on your midline. Very slowly bring your tray out to the right-hand side of your mat or your room. Imagine you've got drinks on it. You don't want to spill them. Good. And you'll bring the tray out as far as it'll go towards the right-hand side of the room without coming off center, without losing your axis. Pause. Breathe nice and smoothly through the nose. And then the inner ankle of the right foot drops down, drop your tray. Lift the right knee. You're coming back into your dog peeing on the fire hydrant. Very slowly, right knee towards the right armpit. And then circle it down. Sit back, shake it out. Good. Fun, right? Come forward back into tabletop. Encase yourself in stone. So everything, arms, torso, pelvis slightly tucked, stays exactly where it is. Draw the left heel towards the left glute. And as you draw the left heel towards the left glute, I want you to feel that you're squeezing something between calf and thigh. Slowly bring the left knee up and in towards center. And then very slowly left knee towards left armpit. Already notice a tendency to lean to the right. Bring yourself back on your axis. Bring the left knee out to the left. Good. And you'll see from I move to the side, you'll see it doesn't go very high sometimes. Good. From here, drop the inner knee down to lift the outer ankle up. Internally rotate the thigh. Find the sole of the foot reaching up towards the ceiling. Imagine you've got a tray on the foot. Already, I feel myself trying to lean to my right. I'm going to push down into my right arm and solidify. Very slowly bring the tray back towards the back of my mat. Tuck the tail, push the earth away, encase yourself in stone, and then see if you can pick up the tray higher. Tuck tail, push up. Good. Isn't this fun, guys? Bring your tray out to the left. You're just serving drinks out to the left. Bongo, notice how you're leaning to the right. Yes, not to pick on you, you're just in the center of my screen. Good, pause with the leg out to the left. Push the earth away. And then drop your tray, drop the ankle, lift the knee. This is external rotation. Very slowly bring the knee in towards the armpit. Drop it down. And come to sit back on your heels, shake it out. It's a good thing class is only an hour. Otherwise, we'd do that like 3 more times, but only so much time. So come forward into tabletop. Find yourself in down dog. And in down dog, I want you to push the earth away, just like you were punching up towards the ceiling with the arms. Press down into all 4 corners of the hands. And then I want you to decouple your rib cage from your shoulders. So I want you to bring the center of your rib cage or the lower ribs into the rest of the body and push the earth away even more. The shoulders will come towards the ears. And then bend the knees and lift the hips just a bit. Good. Slowly draw the right knee in towards the chest. Slowly shift forward and step the right foot forward. Land the back knee down. And as you step the right foot forward, it's not a super long lunge. It's more compact, 90 degree at the front of the knee. We're not going to drop our pelvis down here. You're going to step into your foot and then slowly rise. Good. If you have a piece of furniture nearby, you can use furniture. If you don't, you're going to bring a block on its highest height and have your fingertips there. And if it involves you like coming down like this to have your block with fingertips, you're going to bring a second block or a book or something else underneath it, but something that you feel you can sort of, it's a little touchstone for balance. Good. Okay, so from here, I want you to map your foot, the right big toe to the right outer ankle. Press down. Imagine you could lengthen away from each other. And then pinky side edge of the foot to inner heel, lengthen and press down. And imagine the floor rising and it's just your right foot that has to press down to keep it from popping up and crushing you. Good. Then tuck the tail ever so slightly. Notice left hip flexor, right? This is your left hip extension. Good. Then release the tuck just a bit. Shift forward ever so slightly into the right foot, and then tuck the tail here. And so if you found that you shifted forward and you're reaching back for your block, you're going to move your block forward. Right, this needs to be in a place that's really easy for you to grab. I want you to step down into the right foot even more. And then I want you to get really loosey-goosey with the spine and slump down. So in yoga, we have great posture, right? I want you to forget about it. Get really slumpy with the spine, almost like our slinky spine when we're rolling down. So get slinky with the spine. Your hand is on your block. You're pouring more weight into the right foot. And then take a moment here to take a couple deep breaths. And if this is a lot, then you stay here. If you feel okay here, and it just feels like work, because it is, and that's it, that's all you're doing, you just feel like it's work, then you're going to close your eyes, and you're going to get really light on your fingertips, and you're going to keep the spine slumped so that you're not using your lumbar spine or your paraspinals to balance, but rather you're going to trust the real estate that your feet have on the floor. And your foot is probably doing the little wiggle jig side to side, that's fine. Trust the foot, step down more, tuck the tail, slump the spine, pour more weight into the foot. And if you're good and you feel like you're cool with your eyes closed, then you'll bring your hand off the block and let the arms slump to the side. And if you're really swaying around with the arms, then you're trying to use the arms for balance, bring fingertips back onto your block. Nice and burny in the right leg. Take one more full breath. Good, gently blink the eyes open. Move the blocks aside. Bring the hands down, frame the front foot. Press down into the right big toe. Shift your hip back. Foot's gonna stay pressing down onto the floor. And you're gonna shift back only so far as you feel the belly of the hamstring. Good. Slowly come forward. Bring your left hand down, right arm high, come into a twist. Those of you who were in class last week, I want you to remember that active rotation you had with your rib cage, and imagine you could originate the twist, not from the right arm reaching, but from the belly button twisting up towards the ceiling. And if you weren't in class last week, that's fine. Good. Slowly bring the hand down, step back, plank pose. Right hip feels great now. Bend the knees, come up and back, downward facing dog. And then just once for good measure, shift forward towards plank. Notice differences between left and right. Push the earth away. Find yourself on your axis. And then bend the knees, come up and back, downward facing dog. Bring your left knee in towards your chest. And then very slowly shift it forward. And then very slowly step the left foot forward. Back knee lands down. Grab your blocks, make your little block tower. Come up. And then for a moment, you're going to come all the way up, right? You're on your axis. And then, boop, tuck the tail. And it should feel kind of nice right about here. Good. And then shift forward so you pour more weight into the left foot. And you can look at the left foot to get this in your mind's eye, but imagine from your big toe to your outer left heel, you could lengthen and press down. And then from your left pinky toe to your inner left heel, lengthen and press down. And now imagine that the floor are rising and the only thing stopping the floor is your left leg pressing down. Tuck the tail ever so slightly, right hand on the block, get a little slumpy with the spine. It's so much easier to balance, guys, when we're back bending because we're using the strength of our back. So I want us to trust our leg more so that our balance eventually gets better and we're actually using our legs. So shift weight more into the foot, slumpy, slumpy, slumpy. Not shifting so much so that you're resting on your left leg, but you're really depending on the left leg to press down to keep you in place. Now side to side may be entirely different. Tuck the tail ever so slightly, slump. If it's just enough for you to be pressing as much weight into the left foot and already you feel your foot shifting around, that's fine. That's how you're doing it on this side. If you feel pretty stable here and the left ankle isn't wiggling side to side and your toes aren't trying to figure out where they are, then you can close the eyes, keep the fingertips on your block, and then just play with lifting fingertips and placing them back before you lose balance and whip your arms out. So the idea is to catch yourself before you start truly falling out. And then if you feel really good and you're like, oh, I've got balance, then both hands will just slump down and you let your ankle and your foot do the work of keeping balance. We're not relying on our back. We're not relying on our vision. And then breathe nice and smoothly through the nose so we can teach our nervous system that this is a safe place to be, trusting our feet to be feet. Two more breaths here. Pushing down into the left foot. Good. Gently blink the eyes open. Move the blocks aside. Hands frame the left foot. And push into all four corners of the left foot to shift the leg back in space and extend to only the place where you feel the belly of the left hamstring. And it could be like 2 inches. It could be all the way. Depends on you. Good. Very slowly shift forward. Right hand down, left arm high. Again, imagine that the twist could originate from the torso on your axis rather than just the left arm high and whipping it out. Good. Very slowly, left hand down, step back, plank pose. Good. And plank, I want you to feel the left hip extending. Good. Bend the knees, come up and back, downward facing dog. Good. Shift forward to plank pose again. Good. And then from here, lower knees down, lower chest down, come all the way down. When you come all the way down, bring your forehead down onto the floor. Bring your elbows out wide and let the hands lay on the back of the head for a moment. And now press into the tops of the feet. Get a lot of energy in the legs and then tuck the tail. So it's like you're pressing your pubic bone down into the floor. And then get a little light on the hands. So now imagine that your hands and your head were repelling one another. And then lift your elbows up. So we're tucking the tail, we're pressing the legs down.
You're lifting your hands and your elbows, and you're going to go as high as you can go with both. Take 3 deep breaths here. And then release. Hands can come down to the sides, one cheek lands. Shake the hips out to soften the legs. Two deep breaths against the floor. See if you can breathe into the back of the body. Good. Bring the forehead down again. Hands rest lightly on the back of the head to begin. And then get light with the hands. Press down into the feet. Lengthen the knees off the floor. Tuck the tail. Push the pubic bone down. Lift the elbows. And now notice if you're really jamming your forehead down into the ground, get lighter in the head. Pick up the hands. Pick up the elbows. Tuck the tail. It's going to want to lift up towards the sky. You're going to want to use your lumbar spine. Don't try not to. Elbows, hands lift, deep breathing, and then release, soften to the side. 3 deep breaths. Make the inhale really productive into the back of the body. Good. Forehead down. Hands come on the head. Press down into the tops of the feet. Tuck the tail. Lift the hands off the head. Notice if you're jamming your face into the ground, get softer. Lift up the elbows. Lift up the hands. Lift up the elbows. Now from here, you're going to extend your arms out into a Y, like YMCA. Keep the tail tucked. From here, bring your arms out a little wider and then start to sweep your palms towards the back of the room. Remember those hitchhiker thumbs? Your hitchhiker thumbs go back towards the back of the room. Now palms come up towards the ceiling. Lift the arms up higher. Lift the arms up higher as they go, as they sweep back in space. Imagine you could touch your thumbs behind you, tuck the tail, get lighter in the head, lift the arms as high and as far as they'll go. Start to bend into the elbows. Hands hover above the low back. Light in the head, tuck the tail, and then release the hands onto the low back. Release one cheek to the side. Release the legs. Shake the hips. And then slowly release the arms completely. Bring the hands down alongside the shoulders. Push into the knees, push into the hands. Come through tabletop. Round the spine for a moment. And then tuck the tail. Tuck the toes, lift the tail. Downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step the right foot forward. Land the back knee down. Rise up for your low lunge. Now I want you to let everything be a global movement. So you can let your rib cage and your shoulders be one together to back bend. Shift a little weight into your front foot. Find the 4 corners of your right foot. Good. And then from here, find your pelvis and your rib cage on an axis. So come out of the back bend nice and slow. Bring the left hand down. Right arm stays high. Twist. Good. Right hand down. Step back. Plank pose. Bend the knees. Come up and back. Downward facing dog. Bend the left knee in towards the chest. Look forward. Back knee grounds down. Let everything be a global movement first. So come up, back bend, like low crescent lunge. We all know this one. Good. Reach up as high as you can go. Reach the chest up. Shift a little more weight into the left foot and then come out of it. Find your pelvis on the axis, rib cage on the axis. Tuck the tail ever so slightly. And then right hand down. Left arm stays high. Twist. Good. Left hand down. Step back. Plank pose. Downward facing dog. Last round. Inhale, right foot forward, back knee grounds down, you rise. Exhale, find everything on an axis. You're coming out of the back bend, placing yourself on your axis. Good. Inhale, left arm down, right arm high, twist. Exhale, right hand down, step back, plank pose. And back to down dog. Inhale, left foot forward, step down, you rise. Crescent lunge. Exhale, put yourself on your axis, tuck your tail, rib cage comes over pelvis. Inhale, right arm down, left arm high, twist. Exhale, back to plank pose. Down dog. Good. Come forward, plank pose for just a moment. Find yourself on your axis. Notice how strong the legs need to be. Good, bend the knees, come up and back. And then slowly walk the feet towards the center of your mat. Walk the hands back, center of the mat. Bend the knees, roll the spine all the way up. Okay. So, for those of you who are in like the center of a nice room, right, there's nothing around you, step a little close to a wall just so it's kind of like, just like this, just a touch away. Ideally, you know, we're all in a big cavernous, beautiful yoga zen den, but if you're close to a wall, great. I want you to step your right foot forward just about a foot in front of your left. And I want you to lean weight into the right foot. And then bend your right knee. And I want you to notice how when you bend your right knee, you can get more weight into the foot. We're going to keep the right knee bent, tuck your tail ever so slightly, and lift your left heel as you lengthen the left heel back. You're going to hinge at your hips. Touch away at your wall or your countertop just so you know it's there, right? Just a touch, just a little touch as you lean forward, lean forward, lean forward. And as you find your warrior 3 body, I want you to think about the pelvis and the rib cage on the axis. So Pat, you're leaning a little to your right to get to the chair. Just bring the chair closer to you. Yeah. Good. And as you come into your warrior 3, it doesn't matter if the foot is super close to the ground or if you're like parallel to the ground. Let yourself be on an axis with rib cage and pelvis. Notice how the right knee wants to snap to straight. Bend it. Orient your pelvis so that your axis is connected with your rib cage. Good. And then from here, if you've got 1 or 2 free arms, you can bring the arms back or forward. Doesn't matter. Yeah, either way, mom. Good. And I want you to notice how there's a tendency to sink your weight into your right hip. Imagine you could pick your right hip up. Yes, Vanessa. Yes, Debbie. You can even flex that flying foot, Debbie, and imagine that you're trying to press it into a wall. Yes. Beautiful, Kelly. Awesome. And then come out when you want to come out. Some of you guys are using support. Some of you are balancing totally. Awesome. Shake it out. Take a little walk around your room. Sometimes we get so like obsessed with comparing left to right that it's nice to just take a break between and do something else. And then if you have to position yourself so that you're facing away from your camera or whatever to do the other side, you do the other side. But I want you first, before you do anything, just step the left foot forward like you're going to walk. And I want you to really bend the left knee and look down at the left foot and just trust that your left foot has you, right? We just did all of this like neurological training with the left foot to really bear weight. And then you're going to lean forward and pick up the right heel. And as you lean forward, you're hinging at the hip, you're keeping the left knee bent. And notice the tendency to want to dump weight into the left hip and pick up the right hip. Instead, square them off, stay on your axis. And again, the torso does not need to be parallel to the ground. It could be at an angle. Your toes could even be close to touching the ground. Yes, Kelly. Now, if the leg is in the air, I want you to map your pelvis and notice, is my right hip higher than my left right now? Good, mom. And if your arms are reaching forward, notice if the arms reaching forward are causing you to backbend. Instead, uncouple your rib cage and your arms. And if you come out and you come back in, awesome. And if you come out and you're like, screw this, I'm tired, then you are, and that's great. Thanks for laughing, Debbie. Good, really extend that back heel back. Flying leg, super strong, right? That's part of the lever. Yes, Vanessa, I see you figuring those hips out.
Sore from a workout and still killing it. Good. Okay. Very slowly release. Walk yourself back to your mat. Shake it out, right? Yeah, circle the ankles a bit. In a perfect world, we'd have like 45 minutes where we could do more circular stuff with the joints, but I also want to keep you guys as friends and students. I will not. So when you come back to your mat, bring your hands on your hips, rock forward and back. Bend knees as you go, right? Don't snap the knees. Just forward and back. Notice the musculature. Notice how you transfer weight. Good. And then come into an even distribution with your feet. And let the toes do work as well. So lean yourself a little forward. A lot of us hang back in our heels, especially when we forward fold in yoga. I want you to lean a little forward and grip the toes like you're a tree frog gripping the floor. Bend the knees and forward fold all the way down. And as you forward fold all the way down, tip a little more weight into the toes, hands on fingertips or blocks so you know you won't fall forward. And really grip the toes. Good. And then from here, you're going to plant your hands down. You're going to step back to plank pose. Last one, promise. Find yourself on your axis. Press down into the knuckle points. Lower the knees down. Sink the hips back. Come to a seat. Swipe the legs out. Those of you who are going to continue your yoga practice or go into something right away after, you can sit in meditation to unwind. Those of you who want to take Shavasana will take Shavasana by laying down. But it is up to you. Let your practice fulfill what it needs to fulfill. If you're setting yourself up for meditation, you'll set yourself up in the same seat that we found in the beginning of our time together. If you're setting up on the floor for Shavasana, you can let the legs be long or knees bent with inner knees touching in active rest. Feet come out wide. Those of you in a seat, now map the rib cage and let it be above the pelvis, right? Match those two midpoints up so you're on your axis. And you're going to continue to control the breath here, imagining that the breath could expand outward in all directions, especially in the back of the body. And if you're on the ground in Shavasana, I want you to imagine that your breath could pool behind you. Let the eyes close wherever you are. Continue to maintain control of the breath, but start to soften, especially around the face, the throat. Those of you who are Ujjayi breathers, really soften the throat here. And see if the breath can still be maintained and controlled, but soft and quiet, like nobody else could hear you if we were in the same room. Let the eyelids be soft, the jaw. Those of you in a seat, I want you to see if there's places where you're gripping, where it's unnecessary, maybe in the tops of the feet, the glutes, the belly. Those of you laying down on the floor, I want you to trust that the floor has you. And if you're in Shavasana and you need more time, know that you can simply just turn off your device and stay in Shavasana and close your practice how you'd like to close it. But we are nearing the end of our time together. So for those of you who are ready to come out of Shavasana, you'll come out. And if not, just close your laptop or turn off the iPad, whatever it is. Those of you in meditation will sit a little bit longer. And start to reconnect with the breath if you went elsewhere. Imagining that the inhales move down into the abdomen and they expand outward, left, right, front, back. And from here, gently bring the hands to touch in front of the heart. Bow the gaze down over fingertips in deep gratitude to you for the ability, the willingness, this privilege that we have to practice together in this way. Even deeper bow to the practice itself for providing a framework, a toolbox that we may move through lives with more ease, more grace, more fluidity, and more understanding of ourselves and others and the world around us. From me to you, namaste. Thanks, guys. If anybody has any questions, I'm